Our hero immediately grabs her hand and shakes it off, and says what I am building will be of no use to you. The girl thinks to herself, what is going on here? What has happened to Jiang? This loser is behaving strangely today. Usually he would get shy just by touching my hand. And his heart starts beating fast. Today I deliberately pretended a little, but he did not react. On the contrary, he started shouting at me, and then our hero waves his hand towards the engineer, and says it is not right, it is not right. The gate needs to be expanded. This girl then says to our hero, hey, listen to me. And then she thinks in her mind, that absolutely not. This is a golden opportunity which I cannot lose, because Jiang is no longer with her. If I remove Jiang from the way, then this land will be mine. And after this our hero comes to his room and sits down, and says, I have only got 3 million yuan by mortgaging this house to the bank. And this is not enough to cover the first phase of construction costs. I need more money. And I have to find a way to do it. And then he thinks in his mind, because wait, the apocalypse is going to happen anyway, even if I sell many people's houses, it does not make any difference. And then an idea comes to his mind, and he says, let's do this. Then suddenly a voice comes from outside, open the door, open the door. The hero thinks in his mind, damn, it must be the same old man again, and then he goes to open the door. And then he thinks to himself, because my downstairs neighbor Grandpa Lee has money. And he also owns the first and second floors, and he wants to buy my third floor as well. Originally, I intended to use this house as my wedding house, but I refused to sell it. Since then, this old man wants to buy my house and has been dumping garbage, creating problems by putting wreaths at funerals and collecting locks, using all kinds of dirty tricks. And the old man looks at our hero and says, you went out clubbing again last night. Our hero replies, I'm already upset. Don't bother me anymore. I went to sleep before 10 o'clock last night. I'm not going clubbing, and I don't care. And then he says, I heard that clearly. And then he turns his head away, showing his hand, and he says, you keep quiet, your eyes are only on my house. I have done enough, I will sell it to you. The old man looks at him and thinks, hey, what kind of behavior is this? And then he looks at him and says, say it once again, will you really sell this house to me? Our hero stands in front of him and says, I will send you home, but there is a condition. The old man looks at him in surprise and asks, what is the condition? Tell me. Our hero replies that I will hand over the house to you after 6 months. So I have to stay here for the next 6 months. Before that you have to transfer 5 million yuan to me once, so that I can pay the mortgage for my new house. The old man thinks for a while after hearing this. And the mix says, if you don't agree, then forget about my house. But at the same time, the old man becomes happy and says that I accept all your conditions. But I will not let you back out. You have to sign a contract. Our hero replies that the contract has to be signed. There is no problem in this. You don't worry. And then he thinks in his mind that, hey, old bastard, you just wait to die in your own house. In a short time, you will die in your own house. And then after this, our hero takes out his phone and says once Grandpa Lie's 5 million yuan is transferred, plus 3 million yuan from the loan comes to me, then I will have a total of 8 million yuan. And then he looks at the system at the same time and says, first of all, the system work has to be completed, and he has to claim the prize. And then he reaches a big mall and starts buying a lot of things there. The system shows that a year's supply of provisions has been prepared. Everyone is surprised to see the MC. What is this person doing? Isn't this guy mentally unstable? Our hero looks at them and says, hey, everyone move aside quickly, let me do my work. He slowly fills a lot of trolleys with stuff. Everyone looks at him and wonders why is he buying so many things. And then this woman says, why is he buying so many things? The other person replies that he is another fool who believes in the rumor of doomsday. So he is buying all his stuff in advance. The system shows the work is complete. System points 10 have been added, and the current point is 10. Our hero looks at the system and thinks to himself that it is important to increase qualities in the apocalypse. But this hero supply box is exactly 10 points. And then he at the same time puts his finger on the system and says there is no need to hesitate. I will get my first chance. Now go inside and pick up the hero supply box. And then at the same time it is shown in the system that the exchange was successful. 10 points have been deducted. The current point is 0. And then a gift is presented, whose name is Space Ring and Level 1. They are its features. The ring has a space of 500 cubic meters, and time stands still inside the space. Our hero looks at that ring very carefully and says, smiling, I knew it. The first draw is always golden, and then he looks at it very seriously at the same time, and says that time stands still inside space. This means that even if I store fresh goods, they will not spoil. This is very good. The system shows that the new mission is 10 years of sustenance and 10 years of supply. Right now it is 0 out of 10 and the reward point is 20. Then suddenly a voice comes from behind asking, who is it? Who is that person who is creating so many troubles? And then he comes and stands in front of our hero and says, is that Jiang? And he looks at our hero very angrily. Our hero looks at that person and thinks in his mind that this person is young Tao. This was my high school classmate, a follower of the scoundrel Jiang Sen in school. And he is a person who always harasses the weak and is afraid of the strong. He knew about him, and then last week's security fee is 10. Hurry up and pay it. Our hero replied to him that pay your ass off. If you want it, then let Jiang Sen come by himself. And then he thinks to himself, in which school we have had so many fights. I didn't expect to meet him here today. And then this person immediately raises his hand and says, Jiang, what are you doing? Put these things back where you picked them from, or else I will be merciless to you, and you will have to pay for it. And then our hero says, young Tao, you are still bullying weakness, and I am here to buy respect. And then he asks if this is how Manhwa treats its customers, the way you are behaving. I bought these items. Hearing this, Karyong Tao says, if you bought these items, then pay for these items now, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. Everyone starts entering the items. It takes about an hour to make the bill. And then this person asks how much the total bill is. The woman tells that the total bill is 56,883 yuan, and then he gives the machine to our hero at the same time, and asks to check out. Armik takes out his card at the same time, and swipes it. And the machine starts beeping, and the display on the machine shows that the transaction has been successful. Seeing this, young Tao gets surprised that how did he pay? After this, he immediately turns back and asks his friends to leave, and starts to leave from there. At the same time, Armik stops him saying, hey young Tao. Young Tao turns back and says, what are you saying? Armik smiles and says, you were so rude just now. You should apologize or else I will return this stuff. On hearing this, young Tao gets very angry and says, you were being too much. Are you looking for trouble? And then at the same time, everyone starts making a video of him and says, why are you guys looking down on him? And you are rude yourself. Now he is just asking for forgiveness. This is not too much, is it? So you should apologize. And then he says, you should definitely apologize. If you don't apologize, we will also return all our stuff. And then he says, you are recording on TikTok. Apologize or I will make you famous. Armik looks at him and says, sorry, and if honest enough, I will buy 10 times more. Ying Tao is shocked to hear this, and looks at him very surprised. Our hero replies, yes, okay, bring me the POS machine, I will show you my balance. And then he swipes his card in the machine at the same time, and the person is surprised to see his balance, and says it is 7 million yuan. Armik says apologize, and I will continue buying. Ying Tao was very angry, but he could not do anything. Finally, he had to bow his head and apologize, and then he bows his head at the same time and says, okay, I'm sorry. Our hero puts his hand on his head at the same time and says, remember not to be so careless in the future. Leave some space and understand. And then our hero starts walking forward. Yang Tao says, smiling, Brother Jiang, why are you buying so many things? Armik replies, that's none of your business. I'm planning a big deal. And then after this he asks smilingly, big deal means the goods in the supermarket warehouse won't be enough. You have to find a wholesaler. Armik looks back and says, because you work in a supermarket, you must know some wholesalers, right? Yang Tao replies, of course you remember. He works in the wholesale business now with Jiang. And then he calls him at the same time and says, hey Brother Jiang, I got a big client for you. Our hero thinks to himself, Yang Tao is still working for Jiang. I wonder how much gray income these two have earned from this Manhwa supermarket. And then he takes Armik to the warehouse at the same time. Suddenly a car comes at a high speed and hits Yang Tao. Yang Tao survives. Armik looks at him seriously and says, damn you for driving so arrogantly. And then the guy gets out of the car and is drinking secret. Actually, it was Jiang. Yang Tao goes and tries to shake his hand. Jiang says, hey Yang Tao, is that the big client you mentioned? And then he tells him, Brother Jiang, this is Jiang. Do you remember? Jiang looks at him and says, who Jiang? He's our high school classmate. I remember him, and I just remembered him. But he looks at him with contempt and says, that boy with a little backbone looks so weak. Bai Jane walks up to MC and holds his jacket in his hand and looks at him with disdain and says, this is a fake brand, and I know people like you, and I hate people like you, who pretend to be rich, but are actually poor. Mick stands in front of him and stares at him, and says, I know the brand, I just bought it from a street stall. Then suddenly Bai Jane hits Tao Jai on the head, and says, this is the same big customer you mentioned. You should be ashamed. You wasted my time, and then he starts shouting at him. Bai Jane says, Tao Jai, you listen to me. This is really a big customer. Bai Jane says, this is not a big customer. I have been doing business for so many years. I can tell at a glance who is rich and who is poor. Armik looks up and glares at them and says, it seems like my aura is really lacking. You are an illiterate person and look down on people. Suddenly Brother Jiang grabs MC's collar and angrily says, what did you say? Mick looks at him with a smile and says, I said you look down on people. He gets really angry hearing this and says, how dare you call me illiterate? Mick replies, you don't know how to talk to your customer. Suddenly Tao Jing interrupts and says, Brother Jiang, don't pick on Brother Jiang's weakness. He is really illiterate. And then he tells Armik that he doesn't like anyone calling him illiterate. But Brother Jiang was furious. He kicks Tao Jing at the same time. And he looks at her and says, die. If you can't talk properly, then keep your mouth shut. And then he grabs MC's collar and says, you are a big customer. If you don't buy me a lot of stuff today, you won't be able to go back on four legs. Mick takes out his mobile at the same time and says, stop pulling my collar. I'll show you my account number. He softens a bit after hearing this, and then he takes MC's mobile in his hand and looks at it, and gets very surprised and says 1 million has just been transferred. And then he looks at Mick and asks, are you serious? And then he replies, of course you. Do you think I came here to play games? This is the deposit amount with which I want to buy goods worth 5 million from someone. Call someone to load the truck, and I will pay the remaining 4 million once the goods are ready. Hearing this, Brother Jiang's anger calms down, and he says, what kind of stuff do you want to buy? Mick says, rice, oil, salt, naan, and anything to eat. I want to buy everything, and I will take all this from here. Brother Jiang turns back and is happy, and then he thinks to himself that I did not expect that I will be so lucky. Actually, his food was about to expire, and here is a fool who wants to take all this. After this, he takes him to his warehouse and says, if you take this stuff, then I will give you a discount of 10% on the original wholesale price. He goes ahead and looks at the stuff carefully. He feels something wrong. And says, what do you think about it? It depends on the quality of the stuff. And then Nick at the same time picks up the stuff in his hand and looks carefully and says that except the outermost layer, all the food inside is almost expired. And then Nick looks at Jen and says, you are not a good person at all you know, and still you are selling me. Jen thinks to himself, I didn't expect this guy to know his stuff. And then he gives him another offer at the same time and says, hey, what do you think about this? If you take all the almost expired food items, then I will give you 50% discount. And how about this? Mick looks at him seriously and says my $5 million is for buying the best quality goods. There is no need to buy stuff. So I want good quality goods. Brother Jiang was thoughtful after hearing this and was still angry. Mick said, as far as the food you ran out of is concerned, I have other plans. Brother Jiang says, tell me what the plan is. Mick says, like you said, I will take all your food that is about to expire at 50% discount and will pay in 1 month. Brother Jiang looks at Mac and says, if my stuff runs out in 1 month and you refuse to pay me, won't I worry about it? Mac replies, you can mortgage my house as long as you can. Brother Jiang replies that you know they are almost expired food and you still want to buy them. Can you tell me why you want to buy expired food? Mick replies that it won't do you any good to know about it. And then he puts his hand on his shoulder and says, hey, not only expired food, but expired food will also become very valuable in a few days. Brother Jiang is surprised to hear this, and then he asks, what do you mean? And then he looks at him and says, don't ask too much, just deliver the goods. I will send you the address soon. And then Mick takes out his phone and looks at it. Someone asks him, is Mr. Jiang talking? Mick replies, yes. Who is asking? And then he asks, do you want to sell your house? And then he points his finger at Brother Jiang and says, I have other things to do. And then he walks away. Uncle Jai looks at Brother Jiang and says, Brother Jiang, what? I set you up. Jiang replies, hey, this kid's family is just average. How did he manage so well? Where did he get so much money? And so on. Meek approaches the old man, and he brings 4 million yuan in a bag, and gives it to Mick and says, Mr. Jiang here is the 400 million deposit. And with this, he also has an agreement in his hand. And he says, I can accept your condition of vacating the house in 3 months. Let's sign the contract soon. And then he thinks to himself that this old man didn't even check the house carefully and wants to pay the deposit and sign the contract. He is so desperate to buy my house. And then he looks at him and says, hey old man, why are you in such a hurry? The old man looks at him innocently and says, to be honest, my granddaughter needs to transfer to school and we need this house for residence very urgently. And I have been roaming around this area for many days, and your house is the only one for sale. Mr. Jiang, please don't back out, and let's finalize the deal. Mick looks at him and says, old man, you are so honest, telling me everything right away. Aren't you afraid that I will raise the price? The old man is surprised to hear this, and says, Jiang, this house money is all the savings for 2 generations of our family. Don't do this. Mick says, hey, don't worry. I won't back out. I was just saying it. And then he signs the agreement. He takes the paper in his hand and is very happy and says good. And then he bows his head and starts to walk away and says, Mr. Jiang, I will let you go back to work. I will not bother you anymore. Mick looks at him and says, okay, take care of yourself. And then he thinks to himself that by being kind and honest, while living on the lower level, he and his granddaughter will probably not survive even a month in the coming apocalypse. And then he looks at him and says, the old man looks back and says, give me your current address. And then he takes his current address. After a while, Mick goes to his villa and talks to the engineer there. The engineer says, Boss Jiang, what about the second payment? It's time for the second payment. Jiang replies, I will transfer it to you soon. And then he asks, what is the nature of the construction? The engineer explains that 80% is complete. Look at this wall. This door is absolutely safe. And he asks, how is the warehouse? The engineer tells that the warehouse is a tourist factory building. It has been cleaned and will be ready for use anytime. The Mick then replies, very good. And then he takes out his phone and asks, when will you start distributing the goods, Brother Jane? And then here we see that the man tells him, pick it up slowly. The owner is very generous. He is giving us 2,000 each for this work. How good. Really, this place is turning into a bunker. And you will not find this. The rich value their lives. The Mick explains to him and says fresh produce. Fruits, vegetables are perishable goods. Keep them stored separately. Do not mix them. And then this man replies, I understand, boss. No problem. It will be like this now. After some time, everyone finishes their work and goes and sees. There was a huge pile of stuff there, and he is very happy looking at it. And says, this work is a complete system. It shows that 10 years of work supply. Completion system points 20 have been added. And the current number is 20. He is surprised to see this and says, hey, new boxes have been added to the system store. After this, some gifts appear in the system store, such as physical enhancement potion, apocalypse farmer, supply box ability awakening. After this, our hero says that luck is with me. Abilities are being obtained before the apocalypse. The system shows that 10 points have been deducted, and the current score is 10. After this gift is received, and its name is Mind's Eyes Level 1, and its feature is that it can be detected, whether someone has hostility or not. As soon as he receives this gift, the Mick smiles and says can detect hostility. This is one of the most useful abilities in the early days of the apocalypse. And then a new task is added: be prepared for war task requirements, handle yourself 0%. And task reward 10 points random reward. After this, he fixes his jacket and says, this is exactly what I had in mind.